Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. The group that advocates for unionized trade workers argues the construction industry relies too much on temporary foreign workers to fill a labor shortage. Their new report says that is unsustainable and makes foreign workers open to low pay. We're asking, how can we resolve the labor shortage in construction? Plus, more of your reaction to questions about Justin Trudeau's future as the Liberal leader. But we start at Vancouver City Hall. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Thanks for joining us. We're live on radio, television, and live stream as well. And you can call us now on our top story this hour. How can the labor shortage in the construction industry be resolved? And is the temporary foreign worker program a viable solution? Our number is 604-669-3733. You can also dial 1-800-825-5950 or hit pound 690. You can email bctoday@cbc.ca. Well, Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is facing questions over his office's budget. A new $80,000 for an administrative position, a recent $100,000 approved in discretionary funding, and now new scrutiny over a City Hall boardroom office apparently being turned into a gym. CBC's municipal affairs reporter Chad Pawson is with me now for more. Hi, Chad.
Hey, Michelle.
I don't know where to start, really, but let's talk about the budget first. Why so much scrutiny over his budget this week?
So it's like 2 days in a row, Ken Sim's making headlines. Actually, this goes back 2 weeks. This is when there's just a simple report saying there's a position in the clerk's office. It's worth $80,000. It was established at the end of last year to help manage the mayor's schedule. And they figured out, you know what, it's better if it's out of his office. So it was simply a shift of this position into his office to help manage his schedule. But the opposition councillors on council say, no, hang on a second. Is this a political position that he's now moving into his office? His budget's grown bigger. He said during campaigning, my budget would be smaller. His budget's now bigger than his predecessor, Kennedy Stewart's. So there's already this questioning around how Ken Sim is managing his office, what he's spending his money on, what he needs help with. Yesterday, he said, wow, I am crazy off the charts busy, I think was the exact quote.
That's a pretty direct quote.
Yeah. Saying that I need my schedule changes every 15 minutes. This person is purely a clerical position to help me manage my space. Now, following on that, Councillor Pete Fry, Green Party councillor, comes out and posts this photo today showing this sparsely populated boardroom that has an exercise bike in it and a chin-up bar and some mats in it, saying, Ken Sim is now taken over this office. We were told it was for managing his operations, but I was able to peek into it just last week because the door was unlocked. It's got his exercise equipment in it. And he's saying, here's another example of poor transparency, poor governance. I'm not sure about the mayor's priorities, saying Pete Fry, in that he's converted this space used to host delegations into a workout space for himself.
Okay, how fair is that then?
Okay, so some context here. Yes, this space was being used for delegations, but Mayor Sim saying in reaction, well, okay, we needed a better space. We needed a bigger space. Ken Sim, of course, one of his big priorities is to sell Vancouver to visitors, to investment, to business. And he wants to be able to do that in a more bigger, nicer space when he hosts people at City Hall. Okay, so they move this space. And then he says, the gym equipment I bought with my own money, and it's adjoining to my suite as mayor. It's adjoined on the third floor. There's all these rooms that join together, and I've converted it to a space, and my health and well-being is crucial to me being a good salesman for our city, a good advocate for our city. So he's completely defending it. Pete Fry's post online, of course, as you can well imagine, is catching all kinds of attention. People making all kinds of quips, you know, we need a mayor working for citizens, not working out, that sort of thing. But I mean, has Ken Sim broken any rules here? No, he's not broken any rules here. Pete Fry is merely pointing out that is this tasteful? Is this above board? Is he being clear with people? Is he using public assets? The City Hall is a public asset paid for by taxpayers. Is he using it appropriately and communicating well enough about it?
And Pete Fry was on the early edition this morning with Stephen Quinn, and he said there is a gym downstairs at City Hall as well. So he just pointed that out. But you're actually going to be able to see this space.
Yeah, so we're reaching out to the mayor's office saying, can the mayor speak to this? Because we have Pete Fry, we have criticism online. He is not speaking to it. They send us a statement saying what I sort of summarized there, that we needed the new space for better delegation. So Ken Sim then converted the other space to his gym to stay fit, to do his job. And finally, they said, well, why don't you come up at 1:30 and have a look around. So we're going to go up there at 1:30 and have a look at his setup, his office space, and just see what the setup is. We haven't been guaranteed he's going to speak to us. I don't know if he's going to be speaking to us or not, but we're going to get this tour. Now, remember, after Ken Sim's first year in office, everyone did profiles of Ken Sim. First year in office, how'd you do? And some media really focused on the chin-up bar that he had put in his own actual office space, where his desk is, where he takes his phone calls and that sort of thing. And so this has often been a priority of Ken Sim, to be fit, to project this image of a fit, engaged person in the city to properly sell it. So I think this is more about Ken Sim's image and who he is as a person, and you know, he's behaving that way at City Hall.
Okay, and what about questions though around use of public assets and an expanding budget, given how critical he was previously?
Well, yeah, and his political opponents are calling him out on this because he said very publicly during the campaign that Kennedy Stewart had, quote, a dumb spend. He had 2 chiefs of staff and that it was too expensive. But Ken Sim has exceeded what Kennedy Stewart spent in his last full year as mayor. Like, I think Kennedy Stewart spent something like $1.2 million in his last full year, 2021. And Ken Sim's first full year, 2023, he spent around 1.35, and now he's set to go over 1.5 when you add in this new $80,000 that was approved last December. Ken Sim got $180,000 of extra money in last year's budget to support his operations. One of them was in the city clerk's office. Now it's going to his office. So, you know, he's become a target for these type of moves. When you're a politician, you say you're not going to do something, and then you do. Of course, you're going to attract criticism.
You're going to get a look at this boardroom / sort of ad hoc gym in a moment. And thanks for giving us the context right now. And we'll see how this criticism lays and how fair it is, and his response, hopefully, to you today.
Yeah, maybe I'll do a chin-up bomb now. We'll see.
Some curls, maybe. Yeah, well, you report back on that too.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
Chad's new fitness routine at Chad Pawson, CBC's Municipal Affairs reporter. Thank you very much. It is 12:13 now, 1:13 in the Mountain Time Zone. This is BC Today here on CBC. Well, a new report paints a stark picture of the labor shortages in BC's construction industry.
The latest 10-year outlook by Buildforce Canada has identified we're going to need to recruit 52,000 construction workers. And of that 52,000, 30% is going to come from outside of our country.
That's Bryn Burke, the executive director of BC Building Trades. Now, she says the province is over-reliant on temporary foreign workers to fill jobs in that sector.
Over the last 14 years, the use of temporary foreign workers across Canada has increased by over 500%. It's clearly a business model for some corners of our industry, and it's not the right model. We're not helping ourselves out of a labor shortage by using temporary labor. And in fact, we're exploiting migrant workers in the process.
Well, that report and its argument is our topic for this hour. How can BC's labor shortage in construction be addressed? And is a temporary foreign worker program a viable solution to that labor shortage? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. If you'd like to email us, we're at bctoday@cbc.ca. I am joined now by Matt Pintker. He's president of the BC Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association. Matt, thanks so much for your patience.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, I understand you're at a work site right now. Can you tell us about where you are and what it is that you do at the BC Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association?
I'm the president of the BC Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association. We represent 300 companies here in British Columbia. We represent about 100 civil construction firms. We represent the highway maintenance sector, and we represent the many service suppliers that keep the industry going. So we look at our role as more of the horizontal construction folks here in the province versus the
As
vertical
opposed to
sector.
vertical. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So any earthworks, roads, bridges, tunnels, our members are busy keeping British Columbians moving on our 50,000 kilometers of highways here in BC.
Well,
But more
and
specific,
go ahead, go
I'm
ahead,
sorry, Michelle.
go ahead.
I was just saying today I'm actually in Oliver at the Okanagan Nation as part of our roadshow program, which is specifically designed to attract the talent and workers of the future for our industry. So we're here at a job fair. We have our 35-foot trailer, which is outfitted with 4 cutting-edge construction simulators, and we're giving potential job seekers a feel of what it's like to operate a snowplow, operate an excavator, drive a rock truck, wheel loader. And so we're crisscrossing the province, going to high schools, job fairs, engaging new immigrants, women in the trades, and we're giving people a feel of what it's like to work in the civil construction industry.
And why is it that you do need to do this outreach work? What is the shortage like?
I think like the numbers you saw in the report, I mean, just demographically, every industry is seeing a huge wave
Sure.
of retirements on the horizon. And there's thousands, tens of thousands of people leaving the trades in the near future. So as an industry, we need to do everything we can to attract the workers of the future. And I think that's a combination of attracting youth and people here today. And that's also working with the provincial and federal immigration system to bring in the people we need to keep the construction industry going in a healthy manner here in BC.
And to your knowledge, how much does construction rely on those temporary foreign workers?
You know, I think our members, they're looking for, you know, any available labor that they can find right now, and I'm sure that applies to the horizontal construction sector, the vertical. But you know, our focus is bringing hardworking men and women into the industry, giving them a good family supporting job, and helping them establish a life and raise a family here. So I think, like the report, we'd much rather see permanent immigrants coming and taking these roles than relying on a temporary foreign worker system.
And is it something that that you've looked into in any great detail, or is this kind of a new issue to you?
I don't think we see it as prominent in the horizontal construction sector as we do in the vertical. So I can't speak in any great level of detail. We don't see a lot of temporary foreign workers amongst our member companies. But like I said, we are definitely looking to attract future talent because we see a shortage on the horizon.
You do see that as well, and as we heard from BC Building Trades, you know, the need and the demand is for that vertical construction, as you call it, the housing need, which we all know about here in BC, but also infrastructure, which is what you work on.
Absolutely.
And depending on how many temporary foreign workers you have, as you say, it's not a huge factor when it comes to your sector in particular, but there are concerns about, you know, unfair practices when it comes to people who come here as temporary foreign workers in the sense of how they're treated and how much they're paid. How concerned are you about that, about some workers not being treated equally?
I think that's absolutely concerned. All workers deserve dignity and the right to feel comfortable and well valued in their place of work. Again, I don't see that as much amongst our membership. I think our main focus is with the record immigration targets that have been set by the federal government. We're not seeing enough skilled trades come in as part of that wave. You know, we estimate amongst the 500,000 new immigrants coming into Canada, only 1 to maybe 3% are working in the construction sector. And that's a major problem.
Okay, and so how do you know that? Because this has been, you know, when it comes to immigration numbers, we've heard a larger push, larger numbers, and sort of some talk around, you know, how much is our housing going to be able to meet that? So how do you know what percentage will be those skilled workers that you need in your industry?
We work closely with all of our brother and sister organizations across the country, with the Canadian Construction Association out of Ottawa, and with BuildForce Canada, like was mentioned earlier. So we try and keep a close eye on the stats as much as possible. And we know that not enough skilled trades workers are coming into Canada as part of the federal immigration program that we need. We need tens of thousands of people. Like I said, we have huge retirements, and we're not seeing construction and the trades as a focus within the federal immigration system, and that urgently needs to change.
Okay, so you're raising a completely different concern here, right, from what we've heard from BC Building Trades today, which is over-reliance on temporary foreign workers. You're saying we would like to see more skilled immigrants. What to you is the difference between relying on temporary foreign workers versus relying on permanent skilled immigrants?
Well, I think that the terminology speaks for itself. We're not looking for temporary employees to come here, help with a job, and then go back home. We want hardworking individuals to come here, establish a life, raise a family, get a job with one of our member companies that, you know, they have the opportunity to make work their way up, receive a good wage, and have a good life. So we'd love to attract, you know, the workforce of the future that are going to be permanent residents of Canada and help us build this nation.
Can I just ask you, so you would like a bigger percentage of the number of immigrants that Canada is aiming to welcome into the country, you would like a larger percentage of that to be skilled workers, just so I have your argument right?
Yes, that is correct. And if you look at the millions of homes that we have to build to create the housing for Canadians, I mean, it's not an option. It has to be done. And if you're going to be bringing in 500,000 new people a year, they need somewhere to live. And we need to bring in the people who are going to build those homes for these folks to live.
Okay, that's Matt Pitcairn. He's president of the BC Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association. Thanks so much for joining me, Matt. We're also joined now by Stephanie Allen, who's principal at Adinkra Strategies, a development strategist, and also former vice president of BC Housing. And Stephanie, it's great to have you on.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you for joining us. We've been talking about, a shortage in workers, essentially, in the construction industry. With Matt, we've been talking about that sort of vertical construction with road infrastructure. But when it comes to housing, how much does the industry rely on temporary foreign workers, to your knowledge?
You know, this is a very interesting question, and I think, the reports are coming out are quite concerning. I hadn't heard that this was so much represented in the construction industry as it has been in agriculture. And we know a lot about the agricultural industry, but it makes sense because there's a number of drivers of this, right? We have not put the right investments in our own human talent that we have right here in Canada. We have a lot of people that would love jobs in these trades, but there are barriers to accessing education. There's barriers to accessing the kind of apprenticeships that would put people in positions to have the very high skills that are necessary. And, we're kind of reaching once again into labor that is exploitable. This is the really, tragic situation about a lot of foreign workers that when I was at BC Housing, we heard from a lot of groups that support folks in those sectors, especially in the agricultural sector, talking about the challenges when people have had the bad employer, the person that was not providing for their needs well. We don't want to see loopholes where bad actors can take advantage. We'd rather have systems that protect everyone. And one of the things I think that are really missing is the investment right here in people that want those jobs, particularly First Nations, who have been, very eager to take up economic development opportunities for their communities. There's a lot of opportunity, I think, right here versus constantly trying to bring a pool of labor to Canada.
What are the ethics of that, of going to other countries? You talk about being exploitable and vulnerable, but what are the ethics of essentially going to other countries to, poach workers?
Listen, I'm a descendant of enslaved people. We have a very bad history in the Western Hemisphere of exploiting human labor. And we have not yet fully matured out of our impulse to drive labor to its cheapest possible cost so that those who stand in the position to really gain the benefits of it can hoard all of the advantage. I heard from a person who works in wealth management recently, think about it. This is a person that works in wealth management and has done very well over the last few years, but they were voicing their concern that the pendulum has swung too far in favor of capital, that we have lost balance between labor and capital in the marketplace that we uphold in this country as part of our economic system. And so we need policy to come along and make those corrections because people who come to this country, yearning for a better life, hoping for the promise to escape, the conditions that in their countries have been underdeveloped systemically. And so there's desperation there. And when people are desperate, there's opportunities for bad actors to take advantage.
Let's take a call from Al in East Van. Hi, Al.
Hi.
Hi, what are your thoughts on filling a labor shortage in construction?
Well, one thing is the wages. I'm right now unemployed, a glazer, and I've put myself onto the Canadian government's job system where they email me out available jobs.
Okay.
And these jobs all come to me like at under $30 an hour, which is under 2 times minimum wage. So then I go to an employer and they pull out the same statistics from the same Canadian job bank saying that my average wage is under $30 an hour. Now, when I became a journeyman in 1981, I made over 8 times minimum wage. Now we're looking at under 2 times minimum wage. Now, how are you going to get any incentive for anybody to go work the trades at under 2 times the minimum wage? Well, I think one of the big problems here is the wages. The other thing about the foreign workers and stuff coming into the country is I go to job sites where a third of the workforce on the job site are undocumented workers, where I go to job sites, nobody asks for anybody's ID. There's just like open system. Like we are letting people like from Mexico were coming in with no visas and working construction up here. No IDs, no nothing. You've never seen anybody check out any of this type of situation. So I believe right off the bat, IDs should be shown at all job sites. You have to get orientated the first day that you're at a job site. You should have to be pulling out your ID. The other thing is the government should not be allowing the pushing down of my wages where now it's under 2 times minimum wage.
Yeah. Al, thank you so much. And so right now you're not working as a journeyman.
Well, no, because I haven't been able to get the wage that I want.
Right.
I will be working here in September because that's a job that's going to be paying up about $45 an hour.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to wait until September. But I can go to work today at under $30 an hour, and my employer is going to be very happy, but I'm the working poor. When I first started construction, I was middle class. And there was no such thing as a working class. This is in 1981 when I became a journeyman. Now I'm considered the working class. So what? Now that I am under middle class, now that I'm a construction worker and I'm just the working class, it's really discouraging how things have happened over my 40-year career in construction.
Al, thank you so much. I hear the frustration in your voice. I'm going to get reaction from my 2 guests, Matt Pitcairn and Stephanie Allen, in a moment here. And thanks so much for your call. We do want to hear from all our audience as well, anyone who's interested in this topic. You know, we're asking you, how can BC's labor shortage and impending significant labor shortage in construction be addressed? Is the temporary foreign worker program a viable solution to that labor shortage? Now, this is in light of a report from the BC Building Trades that represents unionized trade workers. It's called Help Wanted and How Canada's Immigration System Has Failed to Address the Construction Labor Shortage in BC. And they argue that over-reliance on temporary foreign workers is not sustainable, and that it opens up temporary foreign workers to low wages and exploitation. And so we're taking your calls on that. At the same time, there is this demand, right? And so how do we fill that demand for housing, for more infrastructure? We're taking your calls this hour here on BC Today. We're gonna go back to our guests for some reaction to Al, and that's coming up after this CBC News Update with Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. Police have released video showing a man who is believed to have set fire to the front entrance of a Vancouver synagogue last month. The security video shows the man wearing a dark jacket, light ball cap, and a medical face mask approaching the front steps of the Shara Tzedek Synagogue on Oak Street. The man is carrying a bottle with liquid inside. He unscrews the cap before disappearing from the frame. Then he reappears and walks away while a bright flash flares behind him. A child has drowned at Wassa Lake near Kimberley. Police say 3 children were on an inflated tube that flipped in high winds and choppy water. They say an 11-year-old boy was unable to make it to shore. And Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is facing criticism for turning a City Hall boardroom into a personal gym. Sim says he purchased the equipment with his own money, and the setup allows him to stay focused and energized amidst a demanding schedule. And now the forecast on the north coast, mainly cloudy this afternoon with a high of 18, highs up to 19 with showers and a risk of thunderstorms in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, a high of 21 with rain and a risk of thunderstorms as well. Highs up to 27 with a chance of showers in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, a high of 24 with showers and a risk of severe thunderstorms. And showers this afternoon in Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. A chance of showers in Greater Victoria with highs around 18. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Thanks so much, Rob. That's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Thanks so much for being with us as well here on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television, and live streaming on the CBC News app, cbc.ca/BC, and you can watch us on YouTube on the CBC Vancouver page. And there will be a lot more on today's top stories throughout the afternoon on the shows that air in your region. In Metro Vancouver, here's what's coming up on the Coast.
Hi there, Michelle. It's Gloria Makarenko here, and I wanted to tell you about a few things we've got lined up for On the Coast this afternoon. We're going to touch base with the city of Burnaby, where a task force designed to address homelessness, they've come up with a handful of really bold ideas, including collecting the name of every unsheltered person in the city and having the city buy land to build its own housing for low-income people. So we'll talk to a councillor about that this afternoon. And we know a lot goes into making batteries for electric vehicles. But when it's time to replace them, we're going to talk to the co-founder of a BC company that is plugging in those batteries into power grids right across Canada. So join us for more this afternoon on the Coast between 3 and 6.
Gloria Makarenko, thank you very much. And our phone lines are open right now to you. We're talking about a new report that argues BC will need more than 50,000 construction workers by 2032 to address labor shortages in construction. And the report also says the province is over-reliant on temporary foreign workers to fill in the gaps. So we're asking you, how can BC's labor shortage in construction be addressed? And is the temporary foreign worker program a viable solution? You can call us now. Our numbers again are 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your phone as well. If you'd like to email us, we're at bctoday@cbc.ca. And my guests for this hour are Stephanie Allen, principal at Adinkra Strategies, a development strategist and former vice president at BC Housing. And Matt Pincairn is president of the BC Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association. And thanks so much to both of you for joining us. And let me just go to you for a reaction to what Al had to say just before we pause for the CBC News update. Now, he talked about being a journeyman for 40 years, how things have changed. And his first point was around wages and saying that what's up right now, or what he sees as available right now, is really, undervaluing the work that he does. Matt, what did you make of that argument about wages and how that's keeping him from taking a job right now?
I think if inflation's hit, Canadians from coast to coast, it's been a very challenging couple of years. But I will say in our sector, in the horizontal construction sector, we have seen significant wage growth year over year. And we do see a lot of competition amongst our member companies to attract talent, which also pushes wage growth. So I know the cost of living out there is incredibly challenging for everyone, but I believe in general, the construction industry does provide competitive wages and, wages that someone can support a family. I think now the timing is also ideal with the talent shortage on the horizon and the amount of people exiting the industry. We are seeing great upward mobility potential for individuals to get in the industry and to move up quite quickly compared to generations past. So I can't push back at all on the challenges that caller is mentioning, but I think we are moving forward as an industry, and I do think this is a great industry for youth to consider as a job to
He-
grow and hopefully eventually run their own firm and support a family with the wages that they'll get in the construction industry.
He said the available job right now is at $29 per hour, so under, as he said, twice the minimum wage. But he was up for another job that was, I think, $49 coming up in September. But is $29 an hour, is that a fair wage, do you think?
I mean, it sounds like that gentleman has been in the industry for a long time, so I would expect him to be making more than 29 an hour with the decades of experience that he has under his belt. But again, that's more of a career focus in the vertical sector, so I can't comment. Our focus is more on the horizontal, which does not have as many red seal trades as the vertical sector.
Okay. And so, Stephanie, what were your thoughts on his arguments about wages there?
Yeah, I feel for Al, and I've met a lot of folks like Al in my time working in construction right across BC. I mean, these are, salt of the earth folks that have been dedicating their lives to creating shelter and places we do business. And it's heartbreaking to hear him express the frustration he's expressing by watching his wages get driven down while the cost of living is rising. We hear a lot in the media as well as from business leaders that the cost of housing, very particularly, is being driven by the cost of material and labor. But then we hear people like Al share that, he's not getting that, he's not realizing that increase, he's not seeing those benefits. So, I mean, one of the ideas I think that would be really great is to have greater transparency. I think I've raised this last time we were chatting, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
We need better transparency on the costs, the profit margins, and the material expenses that go into development. Let's open our books. Let's be more transparent. If we're in a crisis, particularly in housing, if we're in a crisis that says, people are being driven into homelessness, and let me just add, there's a lot of very skilled people who would be happy to take jobs and do work in this sector who are homeless. I've met a lot of working homeless people that work in the trades in my time working in that file. So I think it's really time to get much more transparent. Let's bring greater accountability to the system so that everyone is benefiting and not a few. I think that is really going to be critical here. This is not accusatory. We don't want anyone to feel vilified. But what we really want to see is all levels of the sector come to the table with the spirit of solving this issue, because folks like Al are lamenting, a wage that is not going to pay shelter costs in today's market, right? Like if you're making $30 an hour and you look at that as an annual salary, paying 30% of your wage on shelter, where will someone like Al live? These are the issues that are driving homelessness. Like we have all these connections to this issue that are critical. And the answer is not finding people from another country who themselves have been underdeveloped to exploit, right? Like that can't be our answer.
Let's take another call now. And Daniel is joining us from Nanaimo. I understand, Daniel, that you're hoping to get into the trades.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm 30 years old, unskilled laborer for most of my life, and I'm going to start my journey soon to try to get into the trade. I agree with a lot of the points happening, of course. That's the thing. A lot of the points are very good, but how can we actually make it happen? I do definitely just don't think that a temporary foreign worker thing is going to help in the long run, and I definitely agree that they will be very much exploited. I've seen how they live when the temporary workers, how they live when they come here and they pick cherries and work in our farms, and it is not pretty. It is today's standards for most Canadians, they'd call it unlivable. Shacks, huts, etc. I'm sure that the construction industry will try to do better by the people that they bring in, but I can still see that there would be some major exploitation.
And Stephanie Allen brought up earlier the comparison to agriculture as well, Daniel. So your concerns there around a reliance on temporary foreign workers, the conditions that they may face. For yourself, what are some barriers that you face?
I'm trying to get into it. It's right, the barriers I have are I don't have any family in BC. I don't know I don't know anyone really in the construction industry in BC. I'm going to I have to go to this plumbing introduction course at BCIT, and what that is it's just I'm sure many people know what it is, but it's like an introductory course where they teach you about pipe fitting and two other parts of the industry, and it's $3,000. It's a decent investment for me, and it's definitely a large investment of my time. And it's just like at the end of the day, there is no guarantee that I'm going to have a job, and obviously, like that's the case in most schooling, of course. But
Right. Is it an investment? Yeah. No matter what, it's an investment or a risk.
An investment. You never know. But at the end of the day, when I Google just plumbing jobs in my area, it is disheartening to see what people want to hire, because of course most companies want to hire an established plumber who's no one really doesn't seem like anyone really wants to take on a just starting fresh out of the gate apprentice.
You kind of feel at a loss, it sounds like.
Yes, definitely. I'm just not sure. I'm at a loss, but I know how I'm going to proceed. I'm going to take that course, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to try to make the best of it, and hopefully move forward into the future. But yes, that's
it's that uncertainty that you're talking about. Yeah. Daniel, well, best of luck to you as you take that course and go into your trade. Okay, congratulations on making that decision.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's Daniel in Nanaimo. You have a great day as well. But the lack of clarity as he was talking about, and uncertainty when it comes to, is it going to be worthwhile? Is it going to be worth my investment in my education when I'm not sure whether the jobs are going to be there, and what jobs are going to be available for someone who's just starting out, as he said. Clinton is our next caller now at 100 Mile House. Hi, Clinton.
Good day.
Good day to you. Thanks for calling. What are your thoughts on construction? You work in the industry.
I have been for 40 years. Okay, and I've applied for countless jobs, and it's to the point now where I have to move again. So
you're not getting hired.
Not getting hired.
Oh.
I went to a job site and asked the guy for a job. He said, leave a resume there. He asked me what I expected for wages. I said, at least $30. It looked at him. It looked like I'd shot him. So
that was not it was not something tenable for him.
I guess not. And a brand new house being built, subdivision full. So now, if I'm forced to move, I have a travel trailer. I'm not allowed to park it on a site like we used to in the 90s because you get a fine. And if I have to try and find an RV park pad to rent, it's impossible on Vancouver, Kelowna, Vancouver Island, and they want $1,000 to $1,400. So if I have to move right off the bat, I'm taking a $2,000 to $5,000 hit before I can even start a job. Then when I hear the 6.2 unemployed rate, I wanted to know exactly how many Canadians that is. The only way to get that info is to Google it. It said 1,350,000 people looking for jobs. When I said how many people are on UIC, it's at 130,000. So I'm just wondering if people like me are just living on nothing and how they can afford to live. If, like it said the other day, most people can't afford $500 if they have to take a hit.
Yeah, and so it's very difficult for you to take anything that is under the $30 that you had asked for from that.
I was making $35 an hour 15 years ago. So now I'm finding now I can't even get a job at my age. They don't want an older person, and it's been really a struggle. So now I'm just looking to see whereabouts I have to move again.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
So it is what it is, dear, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your call. And I mean, as Stephanie was saying, there are so many connections to this story. And here we have someone who is in construction himself, having trouble. He's going to have trouble, as he says, being able to afford housing if he needs to move to find work. Thank you for your call, Clinton. And Lisa is on the line in Victoria now. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
And you work in trades.
I am retired now, but I did, yeah.
And tell us about what your thoughts are on the shortage of workers right now, and the reliance on temporary foreign workers. Is that viable? Is that sustainable?
Well, the reason I called is because in most of these discussions, we're missing one really big piece of the puzzle, and that is women workers. I feel that if we properly included women in all of these work sites, we would really have a very good pool of people, of workers. And I, over the decades, I paid for my own training, and I, jump through every hoop. Every time they say, well, you got to do this, you got to do that. And sometimes you run into, unexpected barriers with unions or with, there's all kinds of little hurdles that you can't get by depending on the time and place. But in general, if you look at all of these construction sites, there are very, very, very few women, and it would probably worth our while to have a good look and figure out what kinds of barriers are there. Maybe, what is it about that workplace culture? What kinds of barriers are there?
Yeah.
And really address them, because I don't think that we have the kind of a labor shortage that we need to bring in all kinds of temporary workers. And it does seem to be the case that, yes, they do get paid less, they get poor, treatment in a number of respects. But if we allow that to go on while ignoring a huge pool of Canadians, who are here, then I think we're definitely headed for a bit of a problem, that's for sure. And like your previous callers have said, it seems to have been driving down the wages for everyone, not just women.
Well, let me tap into your experience and your wealth of knowledge. I mean, what are those barriers? How do you make a work site and the industry as a whole more welcoming to women?
Okay, so I think there's a bunch of pieces. If you were, for example, to look at, there was a project on Vancouver Island a number of years ago, an Island Highway project. And in that contract, there was written, that they required to have a certain percentage of women. That is it. You must hire these people. And so one of the things that happens is that if forced to hire women, they may only get onto a really rudimentary part of the trade, and they may have to continue in that. And then, for example, previously, when there may not have been, a certain number of hours before you could be known to reach proficiency on that piece of equipment, all of a sudden the hours go way high, and the person, you'd be working for years and years and years on something that really you shouldn't have to do that. And so you don't get to, even if, there was the opportunity, if they have these requirements saying, well, yeah, I know that you mastered it a year ago, but we now require you to do 3 years on this one piece of equipment. If it's really not necessary, and then it becomes an unfair barrier, and people can become frustrated that way. And then once there are no contracts that say, for example, government contracts that say, if we're going to give you billions of dollars to build this or this road or this whatever, if they're not willing to write into the contract that we expect you to, for example, hire, women, we expect you to hire experienced or older workers, if they don't incorporate those pieces into the contracts, it won't happen.
It has to be explicitly stated as a requirement for that contract. Yep. Lisa, I don't know if you're heading into consultancy or anything like that, but you've given us some really good examples there. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Take care. That's Lisa in Victoria. Really interesting point there. I know, Matt, you talked about it as well, that's part of what you're doing, right? You're going into communities to recruit and to show, what is the need for different demographics working in construction. What do you make of what she was talking about there to address the barriers that she faced.
Yeah, no, I think that caller is absolutely right. We definitely need more women in the construction sector. We project about 10% of the workforce within the civil construction sector here in BC are female, and that's pretty low considering 50% of the population are women. So we absolutely need to do a better job attracting more women to the industry, Indigenous people, youth, new Canadians, older Canadians, veterans, and that's exactly what our program, the Roadshow, is set up to do. And I would encourage some of the callers today to check out the Roadshow website. We do have a career page, and we're doing everything we can to connect job seekers with actual employment opportunities on the ground in every corner of BC.
And Stephanie, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, bcroadshow.ca, there's a career directory there, and we want to do our part to match job seekers with great job opportunities. So I encourage your listeners to check it out.
In Oliver right now. And Stephanie, you touched on this as well, right? You said what we need is more investment in recruitment, in building up that roster of local workers, of workers who are already here. What do you think is needed to do that?
Well, I mean, look at Daniel's example. He's got a $3,000 investment to go back to education. What a great thing to invest in someone. Give them a forgivable grant so that you give that as a gift. The person gets a job. They're connecting to employment opportunities. It would be amazing to see employers invest in people like that versus a temporary program where people don't get a chance to stay in the country. We talk about Canada's failing productivity rates, but we're failing to invest in the talent and the people that are right here and are eager to put their talents to work. I think about Clinton's example and about how he's got to, now relocate. The fastest growing homeless population are seniors who themselves have no mental illness, no addictions, but are clearly priced out of housing, because at $30 an hour, that's $1,500 a month that you can max out on rent if you're paying 30% of your income. And look around us in our bigger cities and even our smaller towns. Where can you live for $1,500 a month right now? So I think these are all really good examples of where government actually has power, lever, and opportunity to make policy investment opportunity, for people to really succeed here.
The BC Building Trades is calling for a federal audit of the temporary foreign worker system, and in the meantime, a pause on temporary workers coming into construction jobs in BC. Is that feasible, do you think, Stephanie? Or would that have too much of an impact in building more housing, as we've been talking about, in the interim, right now, in the immediate?
I think that if we don't have some guardrails right now on our sector, and I say this as a for-profit builder, we need some guardrails. We need places to make us go back and be more creative. And it's in investments like we've talked about in folks like Daniel. It's in, recruiting from underrepresented communities and making sure we invest there and live up to our commitments to have Canadians represented wherever they'd like to be and to have a diverse country that we celebrate. I think we need to be pushed in the right direction, because I think without those guardrails, we will continue to go back to our original shape. And I hate to say that, but our original shape was exploiting cheap labor. And we've got to move away from that systemically, permanently, because there's too much temptation to have cheap workforces, and for those who don't want to share and want to hoard all of the benefits to do so. We've got to really put some better boundaries on that. And I think without boundaries, it will just continue.
Really appreciate both of you for taking us through this topic this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Matt, thanks to you as well.
Thank you very much.
Matt Pitcairn is president of the BC Road Builders and Heavy Construction Association. Stephanie Allen, principal at Adinkra Strategies and former vice president of BC Housing. Let us know what you think. BC Today at cbc.ca.